Lipton Tea and Lipton Soup presents Innersanctum Mysteries, starring Miriam Hopkins. Good evening, friends of the Innersanctum. This is your host, Raymond, ready as always to provide you with your weekly ration of screams, gurgles, and blood. All in a spirit of gentle fun. I have no other object in mind, except to reduce you to sniveling wrecks of nerves and shudders. Have you got a white sheet handy? You might wrap it around yourself in case a ghost shows up. You'll think you're in the business and pass right on through you.
Now, Mr. Raymond, don't be so silly. You know there are no such things as ghosts.
Who said that? Oh, hello, Mary Bennett. So you don't believe in ghosts, huh? And, what's that standing behind you, huh?
Oh, you shouldn't have done that, frightening me that way. Shame on you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. Can I make amends?
Well, you might tell the folks how much you enjoy Lipton tea.
Oh, gladly. Friends, just the other day, a ghost and I were having a conversation about Lipton tea.
Now,
and...
here. Enough of that. Nobody is interested in what you and the ghost said about Lipton tea.
Oh.
No. Let's talk about real people and the solid pleasure they get from Lipton. They drink it at meal times. They serve it when friends drop in for a visit. And, of course, they often brew themselves a cup of Lipton's during the day, just because it's so nice to relax and enjoy that famous brisk flavor. Oh, by the way, that word brisk, B-R-I-S-K, is one that tea experts use. Brisk means that Lipton's always tastes tangy and bracing. It's never flat or wishy-washy. Yes, you just don't know how good tea can be until you know how good Lipton's is.
Okay, Mary, suppose you go fry me a cup of tea. But keep the kitchen door open because you're about to hear the story of the Bog Oak Necklace. It's an original radio play by David Driscoll. And our heroine tonight is that beautiful star of stage and screen, Miss Miriam Hopkins, who'll play the role of Emily. Now, be calm. There's nobody standing behind you. At least nobody you can see. At the edge of a lake, in a small New England town, two men are busy digging an excavation.
Must have been like a cave around here once, huh?
Yeah, old Miss Bristow used to own this property before she sold it to this here city man who's building.
There used to be a fine apple orchard right up there. And was all fine trees once.
Well, let's dig. That's what we're getting paid for.
What's the matter with you, Paulie?
Look down there what I just hit with my shovel.
Huh? Oh, bone. Oh, some cow, I expect.
Cow? That ain't no cow bone, Jerry.
Hey, Paulie.
Huh?
Look at this with the bone.
Yeah, I see it. And you call that a cow bone now?
No, I don't.
This here must have been a graveyard once.
This here was never no graveyard. The river used to come right up to here almost before the big flood. Before they built the dam.
Hey, what are you doing?
Get your coat and hat.
You bringing that with you?
Of course I am. Hat and this.
Yeah, but there must be a skull here, too.
Of course there must be. But we don't have to look for that, Polly. That ain't our job. Come on.
Jerry and me was digging away there, Mr. Warren, down towards the river. And all of a sudden, Jerry kind of yelled. And when I asked him what's the matter, he shows me this leg bone. So I looks, and there's the skeleton right at his feet.
I see.
So I figure you being the county attorney here, you're the man who ought to know first.
Yes. Now, this place by the river that you're talking about, it's the land that city man bought to build a home on?
Yeah, that's right. He bought it from old Miss Emily Bristow. And then we found this, too, around the, well, I guess you'd call it the neck. That is, where the neck would be. It's Anything wrong, Mr. Warren?
Where did you say you found this bone and this necklace?
Well, Jerry and me is making a trench for a water pipe, and we're digging where the old riverbank used to be. Right near the river edge.
Leave the necklace with me. If I need any more help, I'll get in touch with you. That's all.
Yeah, yes, sir.
40 years. 40 years. Emily Bristow.
What do you want with me after 40 years, Andrew?
Look, Emily.
Well, these are old woman's eyes.
Look closer.
Take that away. Take it away.
The bark oak necklace, Emily. Do you remember? Presented to Miss Emily Bristow on her 24th birthday by Andrew Warren.
Where did you get it, Andrew?
It was found at the river edge on the property you've just sold.
Daisy. Daisy.
It's come back to us, Emily. After all these years. It's come back to us. The bark oak necklace. The necklace that meant the death of your sister, Daisy.
Oh, Andrew. Oh, Andrew, darling.
Daisy, there aren't two people anywhere as happy as we are.
Of course not. May I tell Emily?
Why, yes, I suppose so. After all, she's your sister. She should know. Good night, darling.
Look at that moon.
Smiling at you.
Oh. I'm going to close my eyes, and I won't open them until you're down the road out of sight.
Good night, sweetheart.
Oh. Good night. Good night, sweetheart. Good night, moon. Good... Oh, young ladies shouldn't stand staring at the moon that way. Oh, Emily. You frightened me so. Did I? You had a nice drive with Andrew in the moonlight, I hope. Mm-hmm. Emily. Andrew. Yes? Andrew and I, we're... Oh, darling. How will I ever stop my heart from beating so? Let me say it for you. You're engaged. There you are. It was easy, wasn't it? For you? You've no idea how easy it was for me.
Emily.
Right here.
Emily. I wanted to see you so badly.
She's already told me, Andrew.
Emily, I want you to understand about this. I know how this must hurt you.
You've got to break it off. You've got to. You can't marry her. Andrew, listen to me. Please. Please marry me. I beg you.
Emily, we must be sensible.
I beg you.
If you love me, Emily, you must let me do what I feel is right.
I can't let you marry Daisy. You're mine. I must have you. If not me, Andrew, no one. No one else at all.
It's too late now. Forgive me.
I'll never forgive you. And I'll never let you go.
Emily.
Never. Never. Never.
Emily? Emily, are you asleep?
Go to bed, Daisy.
Oh, Emily, don't be cross. I can't sleep.
You can't sleep.
No, I'm so excited. Why, Emily, you're still dressed, too.
Oh, so I am.
What's the matter, dear? Don't you feel well?
Oh, I feel very well. Thank you, Daisy.
Emily, what's the matter? Why do you use that tone with me? Oh, darling, you're not feeling well, are you? I can tell by the look on your face. Oh, come on. Come on out into the night. The moon is full, and let's walk up to the apple orchard. After all, Emily, even though we're going to be separated, it won't be forever.
Aren't you afraid to be out here at night?
Afraid? Afraid of what?
We are at the end of the apple orchard. There's the little patch that goes down the river. I think you'd better go back now.
I go back? Well, what'll you do?
I'm going to stay here.
I wouldn't dream of going back to the house alone.
I thought you weren't afraid.
All alone? Of course I'd be afraid all alone.
Daisy, I don't want you to marry Andrew.
Emily? You know what you've just said?
Certainly.
Why, Oh, Emily, I'm surprised at you. Well, you're jealous.
That's right. I want you to write to Andrew and tell him that you've thought it over and that you've decided you don't love him and you're not going to marry him.
How dare you speak to me that way? Now get out of my way. I'll never talk to you again as long as I live.
Have you thought that you mayn't have very long to live?
Emily! Emily, I'll scream.
No, you won't scream. You won't scream at all, and do you know why? Down in that little pigeon heart of yours, you're frightened.
Frightened? Let go of my arms. You're hurting me. You're out of your mind,
I'll
Emily.
let you go when you promise to write that letter.
I promise, Emily. Now let go of me.
As soon as we get back.
Yes.
And don't you dare breathe a word of this to anyone ever as long as you live.
I promise.
Now, I think we understand who loves Andrew.
Yes.
I'll let you go. You don't know how close you came. Come back here, Daisy. You'd run away, would you?
Emily, I wasn't running away. Please let me go.
Oh.
What are you doing with that necklace? Emily, no.
I knew I couldn't trust you. I knew I never should have told
Help.
you.
Help. Stop, Emily. You're choking me. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Well, girls will be girls, I suppose. That's kind of pity about little Emily, though. Just think what a wonderful hangman she'd have made if she'd been born a girl. Kind of cute, huh? Being taken for a little swing by a girl.
What a terrible woman she is, Mr. Raymond.
Oh, now, listen, I like Emily. She's so inventive. Most women will do anything for a necklace, but only Emily knows what to do with a necklace.
Now, please. You know very well that the only thing you can do with a necklace is wear it.
Oh, yeah? Well, the only thing you can do with Lipton tea is drink it.
Well, what's wrong with that? And, Mr. Raymond, maybe you don't realize how often folks do drink Lipton tea. Why, it's the perfect beverage for so many occasions. And that's why it makes sense to have a good supply on hand, to buy the larger, more economical size packages. And it is more economical that way, too. Oh, yes, it's wise to have a large size package of Lipton tea on your shelf because that well-known brisk flavor, that bracing, full-bodied taste, makes Lipton's always welcome.
That gives me an idea. Maybe we should have had Emily and little Daisy talk out their quarrel over a cup of Lipton tea. Oh, man, that'd be chummy. But it's too late now. Daisy is stretched out on the ground with a bog oak necklace twisted tight around her neck. She's not sleeping now. She's just dead to the world. So, let's get back to our star, Miss Miriam Hopkins, who plays the role of Emily.
Daisy, get up. Get up this minute and stop teasing me. You're not hurt that bad, and you know you're not. Please get up, Daisy. You're frightening me. Daisy. Daisy, you're acting just as though you were dead.
I am dead, Emily. You murdered me. You strangled me with the bog oak necklace.
You see, you wouldn't be talking to me if you were dead.
You've killed your own sister, Emily, because you were jealous.
That voice, that's Daisy's voice. But your lips are not moving. How can you be speaking to me, Daisy, when your lips are not moving?
They'll find me here in the orchard with your necklace around my neck. And they'll know you did it. And they'll punish you. You'll never be allowed to marry Andrew.
I will marry him. I will. Oh, what am I saying? Who am I talking to? Somebody's speaking to me with Daisy's voice.
And all your life I'll be speaking to you. Just like this. Because you murdered me with the bog oak necklace.
I must do something. I must get some help. Somewhere I must get some help. She can't be dead. I just pulled the necklace a little bit, not tightly at all.
You pulled it very tightly, Emily. Look at my neck and you'll see. You'll see how tightly you twisted the necklace.
Stop it. Stop talking to me.
I'll never leave you, Emily. Never as long as you live.
You are dead, aren't you? I murdered you. Something dreadful will happen to me. I've got to do something. What can I do? The river. I'm near the river. Stones, yes. With twine. Strong twine wound around the stones, and I could tie the stones to her, and I could throw her into the water from the crag on the hill, and the stones would make her sink to the bottom, and then she'd never come back. Never. And who would know?
You know, Emily.
Maybe when I get back to her, she'll be moving, and I'll talk to her. No, she is dead. She is... Oh, I'm running in the wrong direction. It was over there that I killed her. It couldn't have been because she's not there. It was right here. Daisy's gone. She got up and walked away somewhere. She's alive.
Emily. I found her, Emily. Strangled to death.
I know nothing about it.
What are you doing then with that twine in your hand? You wanted to tie stones to her, didn't you? Throw her in the river.
I killed her because I was jealous. You're as guilty as I am. Because you should have married me.
Yes, I am as guilty as you are. What will become of me now? All my hopes, my ambitions.
If we can get rid of the body, then we can get married after all. It'll only take a little while for people to forget, and then we can go away somewhere and begin
I never want to look
over.
at you again as long as I live. I hate you. I came back here to speak to you again. I wanted to tell you I'd done a wrong thing. That I ought to marry you. I wanted to arrange with you about Daisy. How we could tell her without hurting her too much. I was heading toward your window when I saw her. Strangled with a bog oak necklace.
What have you done with it?
Exactly what you planned to do. Because no woman would have the strength to do it. I had rope in my rowboat. I tied stones to the body. Rowed a bit into the river with it. Dropped it overboard. The plan works, you're safe. If it doesn't, he'll die. And I'll go to prison. I'm going now. The moon is down already. Soon it will be dawn.
The necklace. What did you do with the necklace?
I left it where it was. Around her neck.
That sound. The sound the necklace makes. I have heard it every night for 40 years. 40 years. Now she's come back to us. To me. Tell me, Andrew, Where was it found?
She's been there, at the bottom of the river all this time.
Oh.
During the flood last year, the skeleton must have been swept into that old sewer. Twine probably rotted away a long time ago. That's the only explanation I can give.
Watching. Down there at the bottom of the river, watching.
I'm going now, Emily. It's probably the last time we'll ever see each other. I'll leave the necklace with you. It was to you I gave it 40 years ago.
Emily.
What's that?
What?
The voice. Her voice.
I'm going.
Don't leave me, Andrew. Don't leave me.
He'll leave us, Emily. He'll leave the two sisters alone. Together.
Andrew.
We're alone now, Emily. Just as we used to be. You and I and the necklace.
No.
Come, Emily, let's take a walk as we used to. In the old apple orchard.
No. No.
Come. It's getting dark.
No, I've not been near that orchard in 40 years.
Come, Emily. With me.
But I'm old.
No, you're young. As young as I am. Come with me. We'll tell each other little secrets, won't we, Emily? Just as we used to.
Yes.
The crickets will be chirping and the moon coming up. All as it used to be.
Yes.
And you'll be wearing your necklace. The bog oak necklace that Andrew gave you when he thought he loved you instead of me. You'll wear it the way you used to when you'd steal up there to the orchard to meet him. Remember? When he used to roll to the bottom of the hill and wait for you, and you could stand in the orchard until you heard him whistle.
Yes.
Emily.
Yes.
You've forgotten something.
Forgotten.
The necklace. The bog oak necklace.
Oh.
Wear it, Emily. Dear Emily. Wear it. Come, Emily, come.
I can't run as fast as I...
Come, Emily,
Yes, dear.
come. He's waiting.
Yes.
Listen.
Oh.
Andrew's whistling for you. Answer it, dear. Go on.
I can't whistle. That's strange.
You must run faster, Emily, faster. Oh, you must run so much faster. Through the apple trees, bending beneath the branches. He may not wait. Listen. He's angry with you because you're keeping him waiting.
All out of breath. These apple trees. The branches, they're in my way. I can't bend over.
Faster, faster. He may run off with Daisy.
No. I'm coming, Andrew. I'm coming. Wait for me, Andrew. Wait for me.
Oh, that necklace. Emily, you caught it in a branch. Turn around, Emily. Turn around. Turn around. And loosen it. Turn quickly, Emily. That's the way my voice sounded one night long ago. When I wore the bog oak necklace. When I, too, was strangled by the bog oak necklace. Come, sister. Come. It's so cool here in the river.
Daisy, Daisy, tell me your answer true. Who gets choked first? Me or lovely you? If you'll be the first to strangle, I'd appreciate your angle. And when I learn that it's now my turn, I'll gargle as nice as you. Mm-hmm.
What awful words to sing to such a nice song.
Oh, but listen, I sing so well, and I can recite, too. Shall I recite you something suitable? Say a Mother Goose rhyme, huh?
Mr. Raymond, you don't know any Mother Goose.
Is that so? Well, I know one that you love. Listen. Polly, put the kettle on. Polly, put the kettle on. Polly, put the kettle on, and we'll all have tea.
Well, that's fine. Only I hope Polly makes sure that it's Lipton tea.
Naturally.
But I suppose there's little doubt that she'll use Lipton. Because, after all, more people drink Lipton tea than any other brand. The reason for that is Lipton's famous brisk flavor. Yes, Lipton tea is never flat or insipid. It always tastes full-bodied and vigorous. And, well, I guess it's all summed up by that word brisk. Yes, folks, brisk is the word that the tea experts use when they talk about Lipton tea. So try it real soon, won't you?
They say... Of course, I just tell you what the gossip is in the morgues I visit. They say that Daisy and Emily can be seen almost any moonlit night. Skull gently touching skull, floating through the old apple orchard as of yore. If you'd like them in your home, you could use their ration coupon. Outside of rattling a bit when the wind blows, they're very nice and companionable, especially on dark nights. And in the summer, you can always use them for scarecrows in your victory garden. By the way, this month's Innersanctum mystery novel is The Outsider by A.E. Martin. For now, it's really time to close that there squeaking door until next week at the same time when Lipton tea and Lipton soup will once again bring you another Innersanctum mystery produced under the direction of Hyman Brown. So until then, good night. Pleasant dreams.
Folks, I wonder what our grandmothers would have said if they had heard about Lipton's noodle soup. I'll bet they wouldn't have believed it possible that a delicious chicken noodle soup could come ready to make in an envelope. But if they'd tasted Lipton, they would have agreed that it has an old-fashioned, homemade flavor, that it tastes just like the kind of chicken soup they used to make themselves. And Lipton is economical, too. It costs less and makes more than canned soups. So, folks, be sure to try Lipton's noodle soup. And be sure to tune in next Tuesday night for another Innersanctum mystery.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Good evening, friends of the Innersanctum. This is Raymond, your host at the squeaking door. Come in, won't you? Well, you're shivering. Cold? Oh. Well, don't let it throw you. Just remember that many are cold, but few are frozen. Well, our story, to be different tonight, is about murder. Murder and a clock. So, if you've got a little time to kill, let's do it now, huh?
Why, Mr. Raymond, nobody can really kill time.
Well, maybe not, but you certainly can frighten it. Didn't you ever hear of an alarmed clock?
Mr. Raymond, someday you're going to choke on one of those puns.
And won't that be nice, Mary? Then you can revive me with guess what, Lipton tea.
Oh, dear. Must this go on week after week? Why must I talk to the only person in the world who doesn't know the proper uses of Lipton tea?
Oh, don't say that.
It isn't used to revive people. At least not in the way you mean it. Of course, lots of folks do find that Lipton's makes the day seem brighter. Yes, it sort of helps them through their housework to sit down now and then between meals, as well as at dinner and supper, and enjoy a cup of Lipton tea. And the reason why Lipton's is so satisfying is because of that one little word, brisk. B-R-I-S-K. Tea experts say that Lipton's has a brisk flavor, which means that it always tastes tangy and bracing. It's never flat or wishy-washy. So folks ask for Lipton tea at your grocer's. You just don't know how good tea can be till you've tried Lipton's.
Yes, and when you leave the grocer, step next door to the clockmaker's shop and ask him for the Judas clock. If he doesn't have it on hand, just ask him to give you the works. Yes, the title of tonight's story is The Judas Clock. It's an original radio play by that old clock watcher, Christopher Mayo. Our star is Barry Kroger, who plays the role of Sebastian Packer.
I'm a clockmaker. I carry on the profession my father taught me in London. I like clocks, all that is but one. For 30 years, I've looked for a certain clock and a certain man. The clock is known to collectors as the Judas clock. The man I swore to kill when, as a boy of 14, I closed my father's glazing eyes and wiped the froth of blood from his lips. Last night, I found the Judas clock. Tonight, I may have found the man.
I'm told you're an expert clock repairman, Mr.
Packer, madam. Yes, I suppose I am.
Well, I have a clock. Rather, my husband has, and it hasn't run for years. Would you have a look at it?
Well, can't you bring it in?
Oh, heavens, no. It weighs 500 pounds. One of those huge marble things. Italian Renaissance, I'd say.
Marble? Italian? Well, can you describe it further?
Well, it's rather unusual. Black marble, heavily carved with biblical characters. The ivory face has a beautifully etched scene on it, but it's a gruesome one.
Gruesome? What kind of a scene?
It's a picture of a man hanging from a tree.
Judas.
His face is positively ghastly.
The Judas clock. I knew without seeing it why the clock wouldn't run. It had been built in Italy for a prince of the House of Savoy in 1598. He conceived the idea when he discovered that his family's treasures included the 30 pieces of silver of Judas Iscariot. The clock was made to run only when the 30 silver coins of Judas were in place in the clock's hollow weights. 15 in each weight. And the coins had been in my possession since the day of my father's death. Somewhere inside me, that clock still beats its deep-throated song, and I have but to close my eyes to hear again my father's voice.
It's an evil clock, son, as evil as Satan himself, and it's cursed. There is a legend that every man who has owned it has died a violent and bloody death.
Well, Mr. Packer, can you fix it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was daydreaming. Well, yes. Does Mr.
Arnold.
Does Mr. Arnold know that you're having the clock repaired?
No. We've only been married a few weeks, and I'd like to have it working when he comes back to town tomorrow. Sort of a surprise.
Yes, I see. Well, I'll be there in half an hour, Mrs. Arnold. So last night, I went to the Arnold house and found the Judas clock again. I started to work. Foghorns from the East River sounded much as I remembered they did in London. And suddenly, I was back there on a fateful day about a fortnight after the clock had been uncrated by my father. I was in the shop when the man from Scotland Yard stepped in. He walked straight to the clock and stared at it.
Good afternoon, sir. Does the clock interest you?
Very much. When did you acquire it?
A cousin bought it at an auction in Italy, and I'm displaying it for sale in consignment.
My name's Pettibone, Scotland Yard. I've been looking for this clock for a month. It was stolen in Italy.
Stolen?
Yes, Mr. Packer. And worse, murder was done. Afraid you're involved in a bit of something here.
Murder?
I'm taking possession of the clock in the name of the Crown.
I shall never forget the look of horror on the detective's face a moment later. He laid his hand on the clock's carving, and it froze there, while his face drained white and his eyes bulged. He opened and closed his mouth soundlessly and crumpled to the floor with his hands to his throat. He was still and twisted and very dead. Mr. Pettibone had died of a heart attack the moment he took possession of the clock. I helped Father drag him into the stockroom. Father wanted time to think, so I went to my room. I dozed off only to wake hours later at the sound of angry voices.
Well, Cousin Andrew, you've done me a fine turn, haven't you?
I've told you I didn't mean to kill the old girl. It was an accident. Don't talk so loud. Boy will hear us.
You killed her as soon as you learned she'd made out a will in your favor. Then when you thought it was safe, you sold all her furnishings and sent the clock to me to sell.
Very well, I did. You're in it to the ears.
I'll go to the police.
Oh, and how will you explain poor, stiff Mr. Pettibone lying in your stockroom all this while? Besides, Timothy, there's nothing to fear now Pettibone's gone. He was the only one who suspected me. Now, you're the only one who knows.
I'll crate this cursed black monster tomorrow, and you leave with it.
And will you also crate Mr. Pettibone?
I
have a plan. Here, sit down in this chair, right here. I'll show you how we can solve the whole thing.
My young heart beat with a wild dread as I listened. I could only see Cousin Andy's back, but I could see Father seated dejectedly in the chair near the Judas clock, his head in his hands. It was midnight. All the clocks in the shop began striking the hour, and louder than all the rest was the chime of the evil clock. If only then I had known, I might have done something, but the slow strokes beat on. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And before my horrified eyes, the heavy marble piece leaned slowly from the wall and crashed across my father's back. And Cousin Andy stood facing my father as the clock crushed his frail form and choked him. He made pitiful little sounds, his eyes begging for life. And the murderer just stood, his back to me, and watched.
Thundering sinners, you die hard.
Cousin Andy ran from the shop crying for help. He would claim an accident. I raced into the shop. My father was dead. I choked back my tears, and I closed the poor, staring eyes. I took the coins of Judas from the weights of the clock and ran from the shop, the blood-stained pieces jangling merrily in my pocket. Armed with the notion that the coins were of value, and the definite notion that I must eat, I approached one of the many dingy little curio shops in the Limehouse district. I stepped through the fog toward a shop where a dim light burned in the rear. Every inch of wall and ceiling was hung with curios, old armor, swords, and shields. I would have run out, but a weazened, apish man barked at me from the rear.
Well, what you want?
I have something to sell.
What you got?
I have the 30 pieces of silver that belonged to Judas Iscariot.
I'll twist this scrawny neck off you. Pulling me leg, eh?
Oh, no, sir, I'm not pulling your leg, sir. Here they are.
Fine. Silver, right enough. Where'd you cop them?
Oh, I didn't steal them, sir. They belonged to my father.
A likely tale, that.
Will you buy them?
Buy him, he says. Buy him. Get out of here before I cause a bobby, you scamp. Get out!
Oh, no, give me my coins.
Get out or I'll come about and fetch you a sound one.
The ugly brute came toward me. He held my coins, clutched in a tight, hairy fist. Before I could move, he had struck. And I hit the wall with a clatter. And then it happened again. For the second time that night, the curse of the Judas clock struck. As I hit the wall, my eye caught a metallic glint above, and a heavy object dropped from the ceiling. The man was about to strike me again when the object struck his head. And remained part of him. He fell. His skull split in two by a hangman's axe. I clamped my mouth on a cry and pried the man's fist open. The fresh blood made it hard, but I recovered the coins. And I stumbled in panic through the shop and out into the night. And the fog of London never swallowed a more frightened and lonely boy.
That nasty fog swallowing a little boy. That reminds me of a little nursery rhyme. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 2. Look out, it might strike you.
Heavens, I'm glad I don't own that terrible clock.
Oh, don't say that, Mary. Just think if you had the Judas clock, then time wouldn't hang heavily on you. No, it would fall on you.
Well, if it did fall and you rescued me, wouldn't that make you a time saver?
Well, split my sides with an axe if Mary didn't make with a joke.
Well, a very little one, Mr. Raymond.
That's true.
But seriously, I do have something to say about a time saver. And I'm thinking about Lipton tea. You know, Lipton's is such a handy beverage. It takes so little time to prepare, and it's always so welcome. Yes, its famous brisk flavor makes it enjoyable, not just at your own meal times, but between meals and whenever folks drop in for a visit. That's why it's a good idea to buy Lipton's in the larger, more economical size packages. That's right. The larger packages are much thriftier. So you see, it's wise to keep on hand a really good supply of that brisk-flavored Lipton tea.
Oh, sure, it'll come in handy to warm up the chills you get from these Innersanctum stories. And, brother, you're going to shiver plenty with Barry Kroger as Sebastian Packer as this story goes on about the Judas clock.
I hadn't touched those horrible coins of Judas Iscariot since the day the storekeeper was killed. By now, I half believed the legend that death followed them. I began to feel that the only way I could escape their curse was to find the Judas clock and put the coins back in its weights where they belonged. One day, as I read the notices in the Times, my heart skipped a beat. It said, auction of clocks. At Chopin Place, auction room, Saturday at 7. Rare items, one of them fine Italian Renaissance piece of black marble. Rare treat for collectors. Come early.
Interested in something, young man?
Oh, why, yes. Well, that is nothing in particular. Just looking at these splendid pieces. I thought I might stay for the auction.
Look about. Auction won't start for a bit yet.
I sauntered toward the black clock. My hand had scooped all the coins from my pocket. I would have to work fast and noiselessly. My sweating fingers began to unscrew the small cover on one of the weights. I would soon have the coins put back.
Yes, I thought. No. What have you got in your hand there? Let's have a look.
No, nothing at all. I was just examining.
Examining my foot? You've got a flock of coins there. You must have taken them from somewhere in the clock. Here. No, give them to me.
Sometimes when things happen quickly, the mind retains details that would otherwise escape notice. As the men and I struggled, I dropped the clock's weight. It hit a short, round bit of metal directly below it. The man had a vice-like grip on my clenched hand.
Blasted little wretch. No! I'll wrench your hand off for you.
I heard a whirring sound within the clock, and before my horrified eyes, the supporting panel at the front of the clock's base slowly lifted on hinges. The clock was off balance and began to fall forward. I screamed a warning. Look out! The auction man was dead, mashed to a pulp of bone and blood beneath the clock, as my father had been. I ran to the door and out into the street. I was right back where I'd started. Only now I knew that my father had been murdered by Cousin Andy. I walked for miles, trying to pull myself together. I wandered aimlessly, or so I thought. But fate had traced my path before me, because I was startled to find myself staring into the shop window of a rare coin dealer named Megaroyd. I walked into the shop. Mr. Megaroyd was a nice little man. He smiled a bit quizzically at my firm belief that I possessed the betrayal coins of Judas. I poured them onto his counter.
Oh, I say, you could be right, you know. Oh, these are the right era. I say, suppose they are. Let me put a glass to them.
Mr. Megaroyd, would they be worth a great deal, even if they weren't the...
Well, let me see. Yes, gracious, yes, they should be worth a great deal as collector's items alone.
Well, Mr. Megaroyd, I feel that there's something I should tell you about these pieces. They...
Yes?
Oh, it's not important.
Oh, well, now, just a moment. I have a catalogue on this here in my show window. I'll fidget just a jiffy.
The coins lay on the counter. I watched Mr. Megaroyd run down the aisle. As he approached the display window, his foot caught in an electric wire which lay across the floor. The lights went out, and I saw him pitch forward and... Mr. Megaroyd! Mr. Megaroyd! The street light peered through the broken plate glass and played across a grotesquely sprawled form in the show window. I needed no more light than there was to see what had happened. The upper half of the heavy plate had broken and dropped flat against the solid lower half. There was no need to ask how he was. No guillotine could have done a neater job. Mr. Megaroyd had no head.
Who else but death can own the coins of Judas?
Tonight, I shall find out if Mr. Arnold is Cousin Andrew. If he is, I shall feel no remorse in killing him tonight. Because while working to repair the Judas clock last night, I discovered how my father's accidental death had been well-conceived, diabolic murder. When the right-hand weight reached the floor of the clock on the 12th stroke of midnight, it tripped a trigger which collapsed the base of the clock and caused it to fall forward. My father had died on the 12th stroke of midnight.
Have you finished, Mr. Packer?
No, Mrs. Arnold. I shall have to come back tomorrow night. What time do you expect Mr. Arnold tomorrow?
About 11, I'd say. Will you be finished by then?
Well, I think so. I'll have to take these weights to the shop with me, though. Something has to be added to them.
Well, of course, Mr. Packer. Mr. Arnold will be so surprised to see the clock running, won't he?
He'll be very surprised, Mrs. Arnold. I've put the coins in their place within the weights. Not 15 in each weight, but 15 in one and 10 in the other. The other 5 coins are in my pocket. In another pocket, I have a small 38, although I don't plan to use it. 8 o'clock, and I have a 30-year-old date to keep.
Good evening.
Oh.
Mr. Packer?
Yes, but I'm closing now.
I see you are. My name is Arnold. Just came in from Chicago. Sorry to spoil your little surprise. Or my wife's, rather.
You surprised her instead?
Yes. She had to confess. I wanted to go out, so she had to tell me. About engaging you to repair the Judas clock.
You don't want it repaired?
By all means, I insist. It's a splendid idea. But what I came for, really, was to tell you that you and I have much to talk about.
Oh, do we?
Yes. But look, close your place and bring along whatever you need to fix the clock, and we'll talk about it at my place.
I'm all set. Let's go.
Think you'll have it fixed in time to strike midnight?
Oh, yes. Yes, it will strike at midnight. Yes. Well, there we are, Mr. Arnold. Weights are in place. Let's see. It's exactly 10 minutes before midnight. Set the hands. And just a little shove on the pendulum. So. And the Judas clock ticks again.
It's an evil clock, son. Evil as Satan himself.
The Judas clock wakes from a 30-year sleep. Hey, Cousin Sebastian.
Cousin? What?
That's what I wanted to tell you. My wife told me your father owned this clock in London.
Well, yes.
I was your father's cousin. You're Sebastian Packard, the little boy who ran away that night.
Cousin Andy.
Yes. I wonder how much you know of that horrible night when your father was killed.
Well, I know the clock fell on Father. I heard the sound from my room, and I was so frightened. I ran down the rear steps in time to see them carry Father away. He was all covered up.
So that was why I didn't find you in your room afterward. It happened so fast. We were sitting, talking. The clocks were striking 12. Suddenly, the base of the clock seemed to cave in, and...
I know.
I bought the clock at an auction a few years later. Had it all fixed. It's good and solid now. I saw to that.
Yes, sir. Well, I suppose I'll run along now, Cousin Andy.
Nonsense. Let's make up for lost time and get acquainted.
Well...
Come now, I have some fine old port from England here.
About...
Sit down a while. No, not that chair.
No?
This one's a lot more comfortable.
It's a funny thing. When you work with clocks, as long as I have, you get to philosophizing about time.
That's so. How?
Well, here I sit by the big clock, just as my father sat 30 years ago. You know how many seconds ago that was, Cousin Andy?
No. Do you?
Well, 315,360,000 seconds in 10 years. That'd be 9,460,800,000 seconds in 30 years.
You've got quite a mechanical mind, Sebastian. Here, try this port.
Thank you. Here's to Father. What's the matter, Cousin Andy? Are you ill?
No.
Your face is quite drawn, gray.
Shut up.
Well, Cousin Andy, it's late. I guess I'd best go. You know, you do look awfully sick. Oh, don't get up, old man.
Sinners,
Here, sit down and relax. Take my chair. It's the more comfortable. Why, you're shaking like a leaf. Now, just sit quietly. I'll see myself out.
Thundering sinners,
Good night, Cousin Andy.
Oh, Sebastian. Sebastian. Get it off. Sebastian, in heaven's name.
Poor Cousin Andy. You're choking to death. You die hard, too, don't you? It was just a matter of timing. I set the hand a minute fast and the weight didn't touch your clever little spring device till just now because it's lighter by 5 pieces of cursed Judas money. Rest easy, Father. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself.
isn't it? Very sad. But a fine chime was had by all. Anybody want to buy a large grandfather clock? I'm in the market for a sundial myself.
A sundial? My, they are old-timey. Say, Mr. Raymond, if you're afraid of clocks that tick, why don't you try to get hold of one of those old Egyptian water clocks?
Oh, Mary, now you're going to tell me that when tea time comes around, the water begins to boil in the clock?
Well, that would be quite an invention. But no, Mr. Raymond, right now I'm not going to talk about Lipton tea. Instead, I'm going to tell our listeners about an important job that lies ahead. A fight that's far from finished. Yes, the battle for Japan. Our government says that this Pacific War will be one of the most bitter and difficult in history. Never before has a nation fought so far away from its own shores. And to support this fight, we at home must work even harder at our home front activities. We must keep on buying more and more bonds, and we must hold on to them. And above all, we must stay on our war job until the job in the Pacific is over.
Well, I'll leave you with a cheerful, timely moral. Oh, that goes with tonight's story. No extra charge. Now, you can figure out how many seconds you've lived. All right, that's your pastime. But you can't figure out how many you've got left. That's just, sometime. You know what I mean? Well, I'll see you in just 604,800 seconds from right now. Well, that's next Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, of course. By the way, this month's Innersanctum mystery novel is The Lucky Stiff by Craig Rice. Well, now it's really time to close that there squeaking door until next Tuesday night when Lipton Tea and Lipton Soup bring you another Innersanctum mystery, directed by Hyman Brown. So until then, good night. Pleasant dreams.
Folks, if you'd like to give the boys overseas a real taste of home, then why not include a package or two of Lipton's Noodle Soup Mix the next time you send them a box of food? Yes, Lipton's has the same homemade, chickeny taste as the soup you make right in your own kitchen. That's why it's a thoughtful, welcome little gift to send Lipton's. And as you know yourself, Lipton's Noodle Soup makes a grand snack. So remember, send a package or two to your boy. And remember to tune in next Tuesday night for another Innersanctum mystery.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Lipton Tea and Lipton Soup presents Innersanctum Mysteries. Good evening, friends of the Innersanctum. This is your host, Raymond, the gay ghoul. Friends, would you like to fly through the air with the greatest of ease? Do you think you'd enjoy being invisible, huh? Oh, it's easy. All you have to do is become a ghost. And to become a ghost, all you have to do is accentuate the ectoplasm and eliminate the protoplasm. Man! If that doesn't work, we'll introduce you to one of the characters on our show. He'll take care of you.
And that's the truth. What awful people on this show. Wherever do you find them, Mr. Raymond?
Well, it's simple. All you have to do is turn over a rock, and out they come crawling.
And just suppose you were looking for decent people. How would you find them?
Oh, well, now, Mary, you were the one who showed me how I just go snooping around houses, peering into windows, and I'd find all the nice people drinking Lipton tea.
Oh, dear. There you go, making fun again. You know, maybe if you drank Lipton tea, you wouldn't be such a bitter, unhappy person. Yes, there's something so warming and cheerful about Lipton. I guess that's why lots of folks drink it not only at mealtimes, but between meals, or whenever they get a chance to sit down and enjoy Lipton's famous brisk flavor. That word brisk, B-R-I-S-K, explains a lot when it comes to tea flavor. Brisk means that Lipton tea always tastes tangy and bracing. It's never flat or wishy-washy. That's right. You just don't know how good tea can be till you know how good Lipton's is.
All right, Mary. As long as you're in the kitchen, you'd better sharpen up a couple of knives, as our main character tonight is going to use them. The story is called Song of the Slasher. It's an original radio play by Milton Lewis and stars Arnold Moss in the role of Detective Dan Miller. Are you ready? Then gather close and listen. If you find you're getting too many chills, then just sit in the fire. A thick, murky fog hangs like a damp veil over the waterfront. Streets are deserted. The buildings loom like tombstones in a cemetery. No living soul can be seen because people with sense stay behind locked doors. The slasher has murdered and mutilated his fifth victim in 8 days. In a drab, lonely little room, a young woman suddenly looks up when she hears a door close.
Well, what's the matter? Can't you speak? Hey, you, get away from me. Get back up. That knife. What are you doing with that knife? You're a slasher. Help! Help me, someone! It's the slasher! Help!
Hello, police headquarters.
Hello? It's the slasher.
What are you talking about?
He's here. 12 Dock Street. He's upstairs. Mr. Nell's apartment. I can hear her screaming now. He's with her. I go upward. I'm an old man. It's the slasher. He's killing her.
Hello?
Is that you, Miller?
Speaking.
This is Captain Quinn, headquarters. Here's the chance you've been waiting for. The slasher's at 12 Dock Street, right around the corner from you.
On my way, Captain. Bye. And that's how it started. A detective is asked to do some queer things in the line of duty. I didn't mind moving down to the dump at the waterfront with my wife, if it would help catch the slasher. So when I got the call, I rushed out of my joint and beat it down to 12 Dock Street.
Oh.
Where is he? Where'd he go?
Hey. Listen,
Don't do that. I'll get you a doctor. And listen to me, sister.
Donnell, her name is. Are they going to send an ambulance?
Yeah, but it won't do her no good.
You were too late.
Did you see the guy who did it?
I saw nobody.
He can't be far. He was here a minute ago.
I heard someone go out the back way.
When?
A minute ago. Listen.
It's coming from that alley down there. Fog's so thick you can't see 2 feet ahead of you.
The back way goes into the alley.
Well, then it's him.
The slasher.
I got down to the alley, the radio cars and the men from the precinct were coming. We went through that neighborhood with a sieve. But we couldn't find the guy who whistled that queer tune.
Is that you, Danny?
Yeah.
Oh. What happened?
Well, you shouldn't have got out of bed, baby.
I was worried.
He got away.
Did he kill another?
Yeah, another dame. It wasn't so foggy I could have seen him. That's how close it was.
Any clues?
No, nothing to speak of. Hey, look, baby, don't you worry about this. You go back and get some sleep.
I'm frightened, Danny. That man is somewhere in this neighborhood and us living here.
I shouldn't have brought you down here. You're going back to our old place tomorrow.
No, I'm not. I don't want you here alone, and I want to stay with you.
Shut up.
Danny.
Listen. You hear that, don't you?
That ain't something I'm hearing in my head, is it?
Danny, what are you...
Answer me. I want to make sure I ain't hearing
Well, of
things.
course I hear it. It's someone whistling, but why are you acting like this?
The slasher whistles that tune.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I heard him tonight.
Then the killer... The slasher must be somewhere around here.
I'm going out, baby. Lock the door. The whistling was somewhere in the building. I listened. Where was it coming from? It was gone. I looked at my watch. 4:30 in the morning. I walked down the stairs listening for the whistle. I walked on my toes, listened at the other flats. I didn't hear a thing. I went down into the cellar. There was someone there, all right.
Oh, who's there?
It was Sykes, the janitor. I came closer.
Oh, it's you, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, Mr. Sykes. Hey, what's the matter? You're shaking like you got a fever.
You frightened me.
Why?
I thought you were the slasher.
Yeah?
He's around here, you know. He might be hiding in these shadows. He might be anywhere. Everybody's afraid of him. Everybody.
Yeah, so I hear. What time did you come down here?
4:30, like I do every morning. Why?
See any stranger in the building?
No, I didn't see anyone.
Who lives in the flat below us?
Mr. Trevelyan. Reginald Trevelyan.
Funny name.
He's a funny fella. Never sleeps at night. Wanders around the building whistling to himself.
Whistling to himself?
Yeah. He writes music or something. He got a piano in his place today. He talks crazy sometimes.
Think he's up there now?
Yeah, he never sleeps.
Here.
$20?
Yeah, it's for you.
Why are you giving this to me?
I want you to tell me when Mr. Trevelyan leaves his apartment. Do you get it?
Yeah, but why?
I ain't paying you $20 to ask questions.
Who's there?
Miller. Mr. Miller.
Yes? What is it, Mr. Miller?
My wife and I live upstairs. I know it's kind of late, but, can I come in here for a minute?
Of course.
Hope I'm not disturbing you.
No, it's quite all right. You the people who moved in a few days ago?
That's right.
Glad to know you. My name is Reginald Trevelyan.
Dan Miller's mine. You been up all night?
Yes. Why do you ask?
Because maybe you can help me. Someone tried to break into our place at about 4:30 this morning.
Really? Mr. Miller, you think your wife would be very annoyed if I play the piano now?
No, I don't think so. She likes music.
Does she? Seemed like a charming girl. I noticed her when you first moved in. You're very lucky to have such an attractive wife.
You whistle yourself like that very often?
Yes. Especially when I'm working on a new composition. Wait a moment. I think I have it. I've been trying to work out that passage all night. Miss Miller, please get out of here. I want to be alone.
You're a query, you are.
I'm not interested in your opinion. Well, what are you waiting for? Get out of here! Get out, I'll blow you out!
Try it.
I've lost it!
What?
That passage! You see what you've done? I had it a minute ago and now it's gone! It's so been lately. I keep forgetting things. I'm sorry if I was rude to you.
I didn't mean to be. Mr. Miller.
Good night.
Mr. Miller. Is it really true what it says in the papers about the slasher? That he has the whole neighborhood trembling in terror?
Yes.
Lovely. Trembling for their miserable little lives. Worried about their dirty little souls. Shivering in fear in their ugly little rat holes. If I knew who the slasher was, I'd embrace him and give him every penny I have.
Why?
Because I hate them. Because they laugh at me. Because... Good night, Mr.
I phoned headquarters, told them to check on Trevelyan. Oh, he was a queer one, all right. So queer, I didn't tell Laura about him. I didn't want to scare her. Couldn't arrest him. I didn't have anything on him yet. I lay down to rest. Maybe I heard it in my dream. Maybe not. But I heard that whistling again. That same tune. I think that's what woke me. I looked around. Laura. She was gone. And the door was open. I rushed out. The hall was filled with thick fog. In the yellow light, I saw a crumpled heap on the floor. I recognized Laura's bathrobe.
The slasher, that's my boy. He's not the type of low character who goes around murdering his friends and relatives. No, he's so big-hearted he murders anyone. Even people he was never introduced to. He's no snob.
Snob? He's much worse than a snob. He's a lunatic.
Oh, Mary, you're so unsympathetic. He's just lonely. He wants to get close to people with a knife.
Well, if he's so lonely, then why does he go around cutting people? You see, Mr. Raymond, I can say the same kind of things you do.
Don't you dare just be your sweet, practical self, or else...
You can't frighten me, Mr. Raymond. But as a matter of fact, I do have something practical to say. I'm going to suggest that all the folks who drink Lipton tea should buy the larger, more economical size packages. Not only because they're thriftier, but for another reason. You see, if you have a large package of Liptons at home, then you're not likely to run out just when you need it. For instance, when folks happen to drop in unexpectedly some evening. And, of course, Lipton's is a grand drink to serve your guests. It goes so well with cake or sandwiches. It just seems to make everything taste better. So, folks, be sure to have a good supply of that brisk Lipton tea on hand.
Yeah, do that. And while you're at it, be sure to have an extra hand on hand, because the slasher may want to collect one for a souvenir. Well, we've kept the blood from flowing long enough. On with the murders. Listen as we hear Arnold Moss as Dan Miller finish that story.
Laura was alive, in a dead faint. I scooped her up in my arms and rushed her back to our flat. She opened her eyes a few minutes later.
Danny.
You're okay, baby.
He was going to kill me.
Yeah. Drink some of this.
Thanks. Oh, Danny, it was awful.
What happened?
Well, you were asleep. I went out to get the milk, and I heard someone whistling.
Do you remember what?
That same queer melody we heard before, the one the slasher whistled. So I thought I'd help you.
Help me?
I thought I'd see him. I walked quietly down the hall, and there was no one there. Then I turned the corner.
Yeah?
I saw the knife gleam. Someone was hiding in the shadows. He grabbed my neck, and I screamed. I screamed, Danny. I screamed so I thought I'd burst my throat, and then it all went flat.
Did you see him?
No, but I felt his hands on my throat. They were strong hands, fingers like steel, and I... Oh, Danny, I'm sorry. I can't even talk about it.
Now, lie down. You'll be all right.
But when you think that he's right here, maybe living in this building...
Well, he won't be here long. I'm calling headquarters.
You know who he is.
I got a good idea. Now, just let me get on that phone and...
Oh, Danny, maybe that's him.
Now, take it easy, kid. Who's there?
Right.
That's Just the janitor, baby.
Oh.
What do you want?
He went out.
Trevelyan?
Yeah.
Okay. Laura, get dressed. I want to get you out of here before the trouble starts. I'll be gone for a few minutes.
Where are you going?
With Mr. Sykes. You got a key, Sykes?
Yeah, but I'll have to go along with you. You can't take anything.
You know what this badge means?
You a detective?
Yeah. Now let's go.
What are you doing here? Looking for the slasher?
I'll write you a book about it, pal. Now, here's his joint. Open the door.
All right. But you'll have to hurry. He may come back any minute.
All I want is enough evidence. I'll take care of him when we get it.
The door's open. Come on in.
It was 8 in the morning. But it could have been 8 at night. The fog was so thick. I knew this was it. I couldn't take any chances. I had to get all the evidence on him before I nabbed him. And I had to get it without him being wise.
What are you looking for?
Knives. We know he's got at least 3.
I don't see none.
Neither do I. Maybe it's a bum steer. I could be wrong. Hey, what's this? Music.
He's always writing it.
I used to be a choir boy once. They taught me how to read them notes. I wonder if I still can.
Why?
Because I think this may be a tune I'm looking for. Now, let me see.
That song.
Did you ever hear it before?
Yeah.
Bet you did. He's always whistling it. I heard it myself when he killed the last one. You gotta find those knives.
You better hurry. I think he just went out to get some breakfast.
I looked everywhere. Couldn't find the knives. I couldn't bring a guy in just because I heard a song. I found a bunch of keys. They were trunk keys. But there was no trunk.
I think I hear him coming.
Never mind what you think. Where does he keep his trunk?
In the storeroom in the cellar. He's always going down there for things.
Hold it.
That's him.
Yeah. Come here. There's room behind this upright piano for both of us.
What, the piece to
Shut up. Get behind here and hurry. He sat down at the piano and played a queer arrangement of the same tune that led me to him. I reached for my gun just in case. Suddenly, I felt the sweat ooze out of me. It was sweat that felt like ice. I didn't have my gun. I remembered I took it off when I laid down to rest.
It's all wrong. Why can't I get it right?
He's going out again. Come on, Sykes.
I told you to hurry before.
I hear him going down those stairs. It's safe to go now. All right, Sykes. We're going to open that trunk in the storeroom.
Here's his trunk, Mr. Miller.
This key should open it.
Are they the knives?
Yeah. The knives. Look at them. Covered with blood.
Gee.
Sykes, go to the police precinct. Tell them Miller sent you. Tell them to come over here with as many men as they can spare.
All right.
I took the knives and put them under my coat. Went up to my room.
Yes, I'm leaving. I'll be home
I
soon.
could hear Laura talking on the phone to someone. I opened the door.
Oh, of course. I better hang up now. Danny just came in. Goodbye, darling.
Who were you talking to?
Mother, I'm ready to go.
Oh, wait a minute. There's no rush.
Listen, Danny. It's that man at the piano. Sounds like the Thrasher song.
Yeah.
What have you got there?
My gun. Come on, baby, we're going.
That man playing the piano. Are you sure he's the Thrasher?
Yeah. Positive.
Oh, Danny, you're hurting my arm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous. That's his place. Come on in with me.
Come in with you.
Yeah. I figured out a way to trap him.
But, Danny,
Don't be scared, baby. You'll be okay.
Oh. You?
Yeah, Mr. Trevelyan. I'd like you to meet my wife.
I'm delighted.
How do you do?
Would you like to hear something? It's a composition I've just completed. I've had a great deal of trouble with it. But I think I've got it right now.
Yeah, you got it coming to you, Slasher.
You stupid swine. You idiot. Why did you give me a chance? My music. Not even written down.
Danny, you murdered him.
Yeah,
Why?
you'll find out.
What are you going to do with that knife?
It's one of his knives. Stand still, Laura.
Danny, do with me.
In a minute.
Danny, what's the matter
You
with
got
you?
it coming to you, too.
Danny!
I know who you were talking to on that phone. It wasn't your old lady.
What?
It was Jerry Boyd, that guy who lives next door, wasn't it? Answer me, wasn't it?
No!
Lie to me.
So this is why you made me come down here with you. You planned this all along.
That's right, baby. And that's why I had you insured for 40 grand.
Oh.
You made one bad mistake. You married a smart cookie.
You're going to kill me and blame it on the slasher.
Yeah.
No! Help me, someone help me! Danny, don't!
When it was over, I wiped the knife clean of fingerprints. And then I smeared Trevelyan's hand over the handle. I knew what to do. Made it look good, made it look perfect. There's a way to get away with murder. And I found it. I thought.
Go on with the report, Noah.
Well, Captain Quinn, after I sent Sykes to the precinct, I went upstairs for my gun. My wife wasn't there, and got the gun, and I heard a scream. I rushed to his place. I opened the door. I saw Laura. For a second, I thought I'd pass out.
Yeah?
He grabbed a knife and come at me, and I shot him and killed him. Oh, Laura.
She was insured for $40,000, wasn't she?
Yeah. Yeah. What difference does that make now?
A lot of difference, Miller. I want you to meet someone. Come in, Sykes.
Yes, Captain.
Did you hear Detective Miller's report clearly?
Yes, sir.
Was he telling the truth?
No, he lied.
What are you talking about?
I didn't go to the police when you told me. I hid in the cellar. I saw you go upstairs. I saw you get your wife and go to Trevelyan's place. I listened at the door. I heard you shoot Trevelyan and then murder your wife.
Captain, the man's insane.
Yes, Miller. A homicidal maniac. I'll take away his coat. You see? He's handcuffed.
I don't get it.
He's the slasher.
He? It's impossible. I told you about that melody. Why, it's still on Trevelyan's piano.
Trevelyan copied down that melody after he heard Sykes whistle it.
Yeah. I whistled the whole thing for him.
But the knives I found in Trevelyan's trunk.
I put them there. I know who you were.
Sykes was trying to frame Trevelyan. He's made a complete confession, Miller.
But how did you find out
when
that
you asked us to check on Trevelyan, we discovered that he's quite a famous, if eccentric, composer. I checked up on the other people in the building at the same time. I found out that Sykes escaped from the State Institute for the Insane 2 years ago. He's confessed.
Yeah. I'm the slasher. Why should Trevelyan become famous for what I'd done?
You had a perfect crime all figured out, Miller. But you made one little mistake. You decided the wrong person was the slasher. Even a copper can't pull a perfect one, Miller.
So I'm telling you all this because in 10 minutes I won't be able to tell nobody anything. Ever since I made my report, I've been hearing that song in my head. Like somebody whistling it. Soon I won't hear that either. It's a nice tune. Kind of sad. The moral for tonight's story is never quarrel with your wife. Avoid strife. If that doesn't work, get a carving knife.
Now, there's the perfect formula for domestic bliss. Don't you think so, Mary?
I do not.
Oh, well, then I'll give you another one. You'll love this one. Beat her till she's black and blue. Break her arms and legs in two. Then tell her to brew a cup of Lipton tea for you.
Oh, I give up. All I can hope is that folks don't pay any attention to all these peculiar things you say about Lipton. And I guess they don't. The proof is that more people drink Lipton tea than any other brand. But if any of you folks haven't tried Lipton's, then why don't you do so now before Mr. Raymond says a word more about it? Why not let that famous brisk flavor speak for itself?
Well, now, if you weren't too cut up by tonight's story, let me tell you about next week's gory little tale. It's about a beautiful woman who holds your hand, tells you about the future. Of course, she's kind of pessimistic. She sees a man with a knife stuck in his throat, the girl waving gaily from the gallows. And listen to this. Our star will be the glamorous motion picture actress, Wendy Berry. Let's make it a date, huh? Oh, by the way, this month's Innersanctum mystery novel is The Lucky Stiff by Craig Wright. And now I guess it's really time to close that squeaking door until next week at the same time when Lipton Tea and Lipton Soup bring you another Innersanctum mystery directed by Hyman Brown. So until then, good night. Pleasant dream time.
Folks, if you'd like to try a modern food with a real old-fashioned flavor, then try Lipton's Noodle Soup. You see, Lipton's comes in an envelope, and all you have to do is empty the contents into boiling water, and in no time at all, soup's on. And what a delicious, chickeny-tasting soup it is. It really tastes homemade, and it's brimming with golden, tender egg noodles. Lipton's is economical, too. It costs less and makes more than canned soups. So, folks, don't forget to try Lipton's Noodle Soup. And don't forget to tune in next Tuesday night for another Innersanctum mystery.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.